Halloween in Pine Hollow was always something special. Every October, the small mountain town would come alive with lanterns, costumes, and laughter echoing between the cabins. For locals, it was tradition, especially the Pumpkin Trail, a winding forest path lined with hundreds of glowing jack-o'-lanterns, each one carved by families who had lived there for generations. Mara had only moved to Pine Hollow 6 months ago. A writer looking for peace and inspiration, she'd rented a small cabin on the edge of town. Quiet, rustic, and surrounded by whispering pines. She had no friends there yet, but the Pumpkin Trail Festival promised to change that. Everyone said it was magical. A little creepy, they'd add, laughing, but harmless fun. The morning of Halloween, the mayor made the annual announcement at the town square. The trail opens tonight at 8 sharp. Follow the pumpkins and stay on the path. Mara smiled at how serious he sounded. Stay on the path. It was a forest trail, not some cursed labyrinth, she thought. Still, there was something odd about how everyone else nodded solemnly at those words. By 7:45 p.m., the forest edge glowed orange. The path was lined with pumpkins of every shape and size, their carved faces flickering in the wind. Some smiled wide, others frowned, and a few looked strangely lifelike. The scent of candle wax and pine filled the cool night air. Families and kids walked the trail, laughing, carrying cider and flashlights. Mara went alone. Notebook in hand, she planned to write about it. The small town charm, the glow of pumpkins under the stars. But as she moved deeper into the woods, the laughter faded. The crowd thinned until it was just her and the sound of crunching leaves beneath her boots. The pumpkins continued, one after another, lighting the path like a living flame. But soon, they started to change. Their carvings weren't cheerful anymore. They were frightened, eyes wide, mouths stretched in silent screams. Mara frowned, stepping closer to one of them. The carving was intricate, too realistic. Whoever made it had etched in tears under its eyes. The candle flickered, making it look as if it were trembling. She looked up. The forest was darker now, the air colder. And though she was sure she hadn't taken any turns, she couldn't hear the town anymore. She turned back, retracing her steps. But the pumpkins had changed again. The faces no longer glowed orange. Now they were dim blue, faintly smoking. The smell of candle wax was gone, replaced by something sharp, metallic, like blood. "Hello?" she called out, her voice swallowed by the trees. Only the wind answered. Then she heard footsteps, crunching slowly behind her, in rhythm with her heartbeat. She spun around. Nothing. But the nearest pumpkin now had a handprint burned into its side, as if someone had pressed against it while it was still hot. She kept walking. Faster, now, the forest closing in around her. The pumpkins continued to light the way, but their faces grew stranger, almost human. Their eyes followed her. She could swear she heard faint breathing between the gusts of wind. Then up ahead, a figure, a man standing in the middle of the path, holding something. His clothes were old, muddy, torn, like he'd crawled out of the ground. His face, hidden by a hollowed-out pumpkin. "Hey," Mara called, forcing a nervous laugh. "You scared me. Is this part of the—" He tilted his head, slowly. The candle inside his pumpkin mask flickered. Mara froze. He wasn't holding a prop. He was holding a knife. "Okay," she whispered, taking a step back. "This isn't funny." He didn't move, but behind him, another figure appeared, then another, all with pumpkins for heads, all holding sharp tools, knives, sickles, rusted farm hooks. The line of glowing faces extended down the trail, flickering in unison, and when Mara turned to run, the pumpkins on the path behind her had gone out, one by one, darkness swallowing the trail. She sprinted, her breath ragged, her flashlight beam shaking wildly. Every shadow looked alive, every branch like a reaching hand. She could hear them now, whispering, a low, rhythmic chant carried by the wind. The language wasn't English. It wasn't anything she'd ever heard. But it made her bones ache, finally, through the trees. She saw a faint light, the town square. She stumbled out of the woods, gasping, nearly collapsing as the laughter of children and music surrounded her again. People smiled and clapped, thinking she was part of the show. She didn't say a word, just stared at the trail behind her, now completely dark. That night she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw those faces, the hollow pumpkins glowing faintly in the dark, the man's head tilting toward her. Around 2 a.m., she heard something outside her cabin window. A soft thump. She looked out, and her heart stopped. There on her porch, lit by a single flickering candle, was a jack-o'-lantern. Its face wasn't smiling. It was hers. The next morning, the townspeople found her cabin door open, her notebook on the table. Every page was filled with the same sentence, over and over, "Stay on the path." And on the last page, a fresh thumbprint in candle wax. Every October, the small town of Ridge Hollow told stories around the fire, the kind of tales that made even grown men check their locks twice before bed. But there was one story no one liked to repeat aloud. The story of the Lantern Man. They said he appeared only on Halloween night, a tall, silent figure wandering the edge of the woods, carrying an old oil lantern that never went out. If you followed the light, you never came back. Most folks brushed it off as folklore, told by parents to keep their kids from wandering after dark. But for Liam, it was personal. He'd heard it from his grandfather, who swore that when he was a boy, his best friend disappeared chasing that light. "Don't follow the lantern, no matter what," the old man would say. "It doesn't guide you home. It leads you where you shouldn't go." Liam never believed in ghost stories. He was 25, practical, and living alone in a small cabin near the lake outside Ridge Hollow. A mechanic by trade, he liked the peace and isolation. But this Halloween night, the wind had a strange sound, a low hum, like someone whispering through the trees. By 10 p.m., the town lights across the lake had gone dark. The forest around his cabin was silent, except for the creak of pine branches and the faint ripple of water. Liam was reading by the fireplace when the power suddenly went out. The cabin fell into darkness. He cursed softly, grabbed his flashlight, and stepped onto the porch. The air outside was freezing. That's when he saw it. A light in the distance. A soft, golden glow floating between the trees. At first, he thought it was a neighbor, maybe someone from the other side of the lake. But the light was too far from any road, and it was moving. Slowly, rhythmically, like someone walking and swinging a lantern. Liam stood there for a while, watching. The light flickered, brightened, and then dimmed again. He felt something tug at his chest. Curiosity, then came a whisper, faint. "Help me." He froze. The voice came from the woods, a woman's voice. "Please, help me." Liam's first thought was that someone had gotten lost or hurt. It had snowed earlier that week, freezing temperatures at night. If someone was out there, they wouldn't last long. So, against every warning his grandfather had ever told him, he grabbed his jacket, flashlight, and stepped off the porch. The woods were dense and quiet. Each step crunched under the frost. The light ahead stayed the same distance, never closer, never farther, always glowing softly through the mist. "Hello?" he called out. "Are you hurt?" No answer, just the sound of his own breathing. He kept walking. Branches brushed against his coat, his flashlight beam trembling. The deeper he went, the quieter it became, until he could hear nothing but the faint buzz of the lantern flame. The world around him felt still, almost suffocating. After what felt like 20 minutes, he realized something strange. The woods were unfamiliar. He'd hunted here for years, knew every rock and tree, but now everything looked different. And the path behind him? Gone. Only fog and shadows. Then he heard the voice again. Closer now. "Liam." He spun around, shining his light wildly. "How do you know my name?" No response. Just the distant flicker ahead, pulsing like a heartbeat. His breath caught when he finally saw it clearly. A tall figure standing among the trees, holding an old iron lantern. Its glass was cracked, its handle bent, but the flame inside burned an unnatural yellow-white. The man, if it was a man, was dressed in dark, tattered clothes. His face was hidden beneath a brimmed hat, his skin pale gray under the lantern's glow. "Who are you?" Liam demanded, forcing strength into his voice. The figure didn't move, then slowly, it raised a finger to its lips. "Shh." And the world went completely silent. No wind, no rustle, not even the sound of his own heartbeat. Liam took a step back, panic rising in his chest. The air grew thick, colder with every breath. Then the figure moved. Not walking, gliding. Toward him, the flame flickered violently, spilling a strange black smoke that coiled along the ground. He turned and ran. Branches whipped his face, roots caught his boots, but he didn't stop. He could hear footsteps behind him, soft, deliberate, matching his pace. The forest twisted around him, every direction the same. No cabin, no lake, just darkness and that faint golden light behind him. He tripped, crashing into the dirt. His flashlight skidded away, landing beam first on a tree trunk, where something was carved. Letters, words, dozens of them stacked on top of each other. "Help me, help me, help me," each carved in frantic strokes. He stumbled backward, heart racing, when the light appeared again, right in front of him this time. The lantern man stood only 10 feet away. The brim of his hat hid his eyes, but Liam could see his mouth now, sewn shut with black thread. The man tilted his head. The lantern hissed and went out. Darkness swallowed everything. When Liam opened his eyes again, it was daylight. The forest was quiet. Birds chirped in the distance. He was lying on his back, clothes damp with dew. His flashlight was gone. His phone too. He staggered to his feet and followed what he thought was the way back. 2 hours later, he stumbled into town, pale and shaking. When the sheriff found him, he could barely speak. He kept repeating the same thing. "The light. Don't follow the light." They found his cabin door wide open. On the porch, a rusted oil lantern, still faintly warm. That winter, hunters reported seeing a light drifting near the lake at night. Sometimes it stayed still. Other times, it followed whoever looked at it. And every Halloween since, when the fog rolls in thick over Ridge Hollow, Locals say they see a man on the trail's edge, his lantern swinging slowly, waiting for someone else curious enough to follow. It started as nothing more than a weekend project. Ethan wasn't looking for much. Just a quiet place away from the city, deep in the woods, where he could clear his head and forget about the noise of life. He had always loved carpentry, and when he found an empty plot of land up north, tucked between a lake and a wall of pines, it felt perfect. Solitude, silence, and space to build something of his own. He brought in his tools, wood, and blueprints. It was supposed to take weeks, maybe months. But from the first day, something was off. The first morning, Ethan woke to find a wall already standing, one he hadn't built. The wood was the same, the nails identical, but the placement wasn't his. He thought maybe he had started the frame late last night and just forgotten. After all, he'd had a few drinks, and the stars had blurred by the fire. It was easy to forget. But by the third morning, there was more. The roof beams were up, the door frame was fixed, and worst of all, the hammer he'd been using was gone, replaced by an older one, rusted and heavy, like it belonged to someone else. At first, he laughed it off. He even texted his brother, joking that maybe the cabin wants to build itself. His brother replied with a laughing emoji. Ethan didn't mention that he was starting to believe it. Each night, he'd fall asleep inside his tent to the sound of faint hammering, rhythmic, steady, out in the dark. He told himself it was an echo, wood creaking, trees snapping, but one night, the hammering stopped, replaced by footsteps just outside the tent. He didn't move, didn't breathe. The steps circled him slowly, crunching over the leaves, dragging slightly, like someone was carrying something heavy. Then silence. When he finally built up the courage to unzip the tent, nothing was there, except a pile of wood stacked neatly beside the unfinished cabin. The next morning, the cabin had a new window, perfectly fitted. But the glass, that was impossible. He hadn't brought glass. There was no electricity, no workshop, no supply run. He hadn't even left the woods since he arrived. The window faced the forest, but when he looked through it, the reflection didn't show him. It showed someone else. A bearded man with hollow eyes, standing right where Ethan was. He blinked, and the reflection blinked half a second later. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat by the campfire, flashlight in hand, watching the half-built cabin. The moon was high, and every so often, he swore he saw movement inside. A flicker of a shadow or a shape pacing slowly from wall to wall. Around 3 a.m., he heard a loud thud, like a hammer hitting wood again and again. He walked toward it, step by step. The noise stopped when he reached the porch. The door, the one that wasn't there yesterday, was slightly open. Inside, the air was cold. The cabin was finished, completely. Walls, floorboards, furniture, even a bed. It looked lived in. Dusty, yes, but there were old boots by the door and a jacket hanging on the rack. A faint smell of pine smoke and sweat. On the table sat a photo frame. A family of 3 smiling in front of the same cabin. The date on the back read August 1981. He left that night, or tried to. The woods twisted endlessly, paths looping back to the same clearing. The cabin stood there every time he thought he'd escaped, waiting, silent, as if patient. The third time he circled back, the lights were on inside, and a man was standing in the window. His reflection, smiling faintly. He ran. Branches tore his arms, the cold air slicing his throat. He didn't stop until he saw headlights through the trees, the edge of the forest road. When he looked back, the cabin was gone. A week later, a ranger found him sleeping in his truck at the edge of the forest, disoriented, dehydrated. He mumbled about the cabin, but when they searched the area, there was nothing. Just trees, snow, and old footprints leading to nowhere. A year later, hikers reported finding a small wooden cabin deep inside those same woods. No paths, no roads. And on the porch, a photo frame. The picture showed Ethan, smiling beside the same cabin he swore he'd never built.